Hello, I'm Kim Stricker, and this is AI storytelling done right.
Hey, this is Tim Winters. Good morning.
Good
Let's do it
morning.
right.
Yeah, so today we wanted to talk, I know, a little bit about the fact that AI isn't replacing the story, it's removing what gets in the way, specifically on creative today. So I know that this might be something you have some experience with, yeah, Tim?
Yes. Yes.
So, I know the fact, it's been, the economy's obviously not an easy thing going on right now, but and everybody's worried about AI replacing jobs and specifically in our industry replacing creativity. And I don't know if that's actually what's happening on the creative side. I think it's kind of an evolution a little bit right now, and it's really I feel like there's a lot of aiding in the process of how creative is presented, how it's developed, and then how it's actually created too. So I don't know if you want to maybe just dive into
Yeah, I
that part
mean,
of it a
it's
little
been
bit too.
yeah, it's been subtly happening. I think whether you call it AI or not, they have different names for it. It's already built into a lot of programs that we use every day. Photoshop, definitely, with generation, so you can easily remove things that used to take me hours of clipping, which happens pretty instantly. You get a vertical photo and you need it horizontal, and it fills in the gaps, and it does a really great job of that. Another thing is just, and a lot of these are just time savers. You know, as far as music generation, you're stuck with a minute long piece, but your music track is, 40 seconds, so you need to stretch it out. AI is really leaning in and helping get that track to be exactly the right, music length, which just saves tons of time. There's a bunch of little things like that, probably just as much so, on the project management side and account side where they're using these tools. I use them the same way just to make my daily tasks easier. Um, for example, I have AI open when I'm doing a large quantity of the same thing, and I'll use AI to find the fastest way to get that done. So I'm not spending 6 hours on a task, and it's cutting the time in half. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways that it's been introduced subtly, and I don't think it was directly called AI, but that's what it is. So
Yeah, I
it's
agree. I
been
mean,
great.
there's definitely been some interesting, just even happenstance, like, oh, that's a cool thing that I just did. I mean, I know we've been doing this for a while. It's just recording meetings and then transcribing them. And I feel like when we can, we're always taking notes, obviously on the account side, and just kind of getting a lot of the client feedback and details. But really, when we're able to record a session with the client to say, what are you thinking? What's your vision? Like, what are some of the goals? Things that we might have missed just, in passing are now captured in some of those transcriptions. And so when I'm writing creative briefs, which has become a lot easier, I'm able to incorporate meeting notes, strategy decks that I've put together in the past, brand guidelines, the voice and tone, and like all of these documents that I have collected. I'm able to really kind of incorporate all of that into a brief, and now it's in one location and it's very thorough, which is fantastic. And then I'm able to modify and edit accordingly too. So that has been a big piece of it, and I think it's been helpful in the process to be able to have that thoughtfulness all the way through. And then I've also noticed, we're able to not only nowadays create one piece for client, we're able to do a few different options too. And I know it's not as heavy of a lift that it has been before. So our output has been a lot greater, which is great. Gives options, I feel like, and especially on the social side, that's awesome because now we have more content to push out.
Yeah, I think a really good analogy is when it comes down to pitching work.
Yeah.
There is a lot of chaos that goes on around a pitch, and have very limited time. and sometimes limited resource because it's not always the priority of the company for the employees to be pitching new work because they have their day jobs to do. But up front, it's great because client research, you're walking into the room, you're going to know a lot more about these clients. I'd rather spend, 3 hours on a deck instead of 10 hours on a deck because I want to work more on, work on the idea more.
Hmm.
So I think it's actually
Ditto.
adding
Yeah.
a member to your team when it comes to pitching because it's going to do a lot of heavy lifting. And, those, and as far as replacing jobs, I mean, these are tools that people that are already building decks can use as a tool to make their decks better.
Yeah. Oh,
To run
absolutely.
it, to check it with AI and say like, what are we missing here? And
Yeah.
I would feel way more confident going into any pitch with AI as a tool.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. And I like too that, the clients that we're working with are now starting to think about that as a tool. And like where we had some limitations before because we didn't have stuff shot or it was still a prototype or whatever it might have been, or hey, we just have an image. And I was and I got like a call yesterday, like, and I think I shared it with you. I was in there. The client was like, I was in a meeting, and they were talking about this prototype that they were working on, and they're like, "Is there any way that you can bring that to life? Can you give me like a quick, like 10-second clip of something in motion to see if maybe that's a possibility that we can look at?" And I think that that's awesome now that they're thinking about that of like, oh, maybe we could do something a little different here. Let's call Kim and Tim and find out is this something that could be brought to life in a different way. So I love the fact that now they're starting to think about it that way, and there's zero limitations really. I mean, like, I guess there could be some. I ran across a few. I think we talked about this yesterday. There are some limitations on what things can do, especially when we get into a very highly technical motion or something like that. I mean, I think we obviously need to see what it does, and understand a little clearer, like what is the action of this object? What is it supposed to do? And being able to kind of clarify that might be something that it might be kind of stuck on. But I feel like we're
Yeah, and I mean, I can take a brand like, a bourbon brand or something and recreate the bottle in AI and someone pouring it and the setting and people toasting and drinking and it looks great, but I could spend 4 hours trying to get one guy to tie his shoes because it's a mess in AI. Like it looks horrible. He's tying the wrong shoe. The laces somehow just magically go together and then the shoe's tied. So you really have to look at I spend a lot of time watching commercials and things and thinking like how would I do that in AI, and sometimes I walk away saying that would just be very difficult to do, and it could
maybe
be
we should
something very
shoot
simple.
that.
Yeah, even just father and son playing catch on the front lawn can be disastrous because I, I had a kid whip the ball at his sister and I didn't tell it to do any of that, but yeah.
Well,
So it's one of those things where it's so new that once don't go down the rabbit hole of spending too much time when you're like, do I really even need this shot or can I just shoot it myself? Because it ends up being faster and better to do it that way.
yeah, agree. Yeah, I think that there's definitely, and we're running into them. So I think like everything is a good. If it's an idea, let's test it. Is what I say. I'm like, it doesn't hurt. Let's see if it actually will work. And if it does, fantastic. If it doesn't, then hey, maybe we need to approach this a different way, and not lean into this solution.
Yeah.
But
I
um,
related a lot to a lot of times I feel like because I've done a lot of 3D work, it feels a lot like CG, like you're working with CG,
yeah,
except again, when a client wants something changed out, you're going back in and building a new model and then re-rendering. And although that whole setup is already still there, it's not as easy as AI just to swap out a car instantly,
right.
just by putting in the make and model, which AI can really help with.
Yeah, I was on a call the other day too, and they were talking about that, and I said, is the product expected to change? And they said, yeah. I'm like, well, every single shot that product is in, we have to re-render. It's not like
Yeah.
CG where you just swap out the badge in the animation environment, and then now it's the updated, and you can easily export.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now we got to recreate and export every single piece of it. So,
Yeah, and that's why, workflows are so important because, if a client needs just banner ads, for example, there could be 25 different sizes and that creative's in every single size. So if you kind of lay out the project ahead of time, my Photoshop files are a mess. I'm horrible at laying them out, but I actually enjoy kind of prepping for these projects to see what's the most efficient way to do it and make changes in the future.
yeah. I also think, just to switch gears a little bit too. I mean, I know we're talking about workflow and, what's capable within AI, but I think there's one thing to kind of attest to or to talk about is the fact that we want to make sure that we're customizing AI and not giving it a generic feel in what we're producing out there. Because I feel like right now a lot of people are using like ChatGPT, for instance, for even flyers, and like you see it and it has like, oh yeah, that was created in Chat. It has that very
Yeah,
distinct look and
yeah,
feel.
yeah.
I mean, copy it started with where it used the word "I'm thrilled" or like the M dash and things like that are dead giveaways, but on a visual sense, I mean, maybe we could talk a little bit about like how to keep the brand, equity and the brand look and feel and all of those things that we've worked so hard to produce to begin with, and how do we keep that continuity all the way through in what we're producing, in a visual sense.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point the other day about, a company loads an entire brand into AI, so it has it, and then at the end of the day, you're like, well, wait, we don't want to do what we've been doing forever. So how do you get that variance in there to do something new? But I think that the more you feed into AI, the more it will help you find something different than what you've been doing, or if you want to reference it, keep it the same. I mean, ChatGPT is the platform I'm using the most just because I've been using it since the beginning, and it knows my clients, so
Yeah.
it knows what tone to use when it comes to one of those clients, and that's really important. But as soon as I need to change gears and say, you know what, this they want to do something more, grungy or shoot from the hip or whatever, it's able to make those transitions as well,
Yeah.
and remind me along the way, like the importance of the brand, you know, the brand book and how things are being used.
Yeah, I've been utilizing. I started with ChatGPT and then I switched over to Claude. And I actually, one of the reasons why it took me so long to switch over, and I'm still kind of going back and forth on some things, is I was worried about all of the history being lost. So I ended up looking up on how to export all that historical data from Chat and push it into Claude, and that seemed to have worked pretty good. I had to make a few tweaks along the way, but I've liked how Claude kind of steps me through a few things. If it doesn't know what I'm asking for, it'll prompt me, and then I can kind of answer those questions to kind of rebuild some of that thing or some of that insight and that detail work. But yeah, no,
That's
it's
why, yeah, from the creative side, especially as a freelancer, it's very important to find a platform that has a bunch of different tools, especially creative tools, because they are changing nonstop. One day everyone's talking about Sora, then it's Seed Dance, and then Seed Dance is way better than Sora. Like, what are you using Sora for? I'm like, well, 2 weeks ago everyone was using Sora. So
right.
there's a lot of experimenting that goes along, and you also have to be careful because the credits are expensive. So that's
Yeah.
that's another thing that you just kind of ignore.
Well, that's a
I
big
have to
thing. I
look,
feel like I'm
yeah,
like, what's going to happen in a year from now? Like, how much are those credits going to be? And
yeah, I know there'd be like bitcoins, but
right,
yeah, someone
right.
someone will look at something you rendered and think, wow, you spent a lot of money on that. I mean, how many credits did that cost? And hopefully, as more people get into it, they'll get some better monthly plans and things like that. But I know certain platforms what their capabilities are, and I think it's going to be expensive to do this, but it's going to be better.
Yeah.
So I guess you would just look whether or not that goes back to the client or the overall project, or
Right.
things like that.
Well, I actually put in Claude a workflow that I could run a report every week to say, what, based on everything that you know about me and the agency and the work that we do and our clients that we work with, give me the top five pieces, the new pieces of software that launched, and how we could apply the work that we do to that. So taking a look at that has actually been helpful. So that it kind of cuts through the clutter, because I feel like it's like what social media was in 2008 starting. It was like, oh my gosh, every day there was a new platform, and the clients were like, well, should we be using this? Should we be using that? And I'm like, no, like, let's take a look and be strategic on what we're actually utilizing here. Otherwise, it's going to get really expensive really fast, utilizing all these different platforms and the monthly costs that kind of go along with it, or credits, or what have you. So I think, we're kind of in that same boat here, where it's like, okay, well, let's see what's new and maybe what works. I mean, like, just new things. Some of them are kind of fallen by the wayside and changing, but others are like, oh, that's a really cool tool. Let me see how I can apply that. So,
Yeah. And going back to, the whole job thing, I think it's really important to remember that, you know, I I've been working with analytics my whole life. I still know nothing about them hardly. I'm on the creative side, so as long as the numbers come back good, I'm good to go. But it doesn't allow me to become an analytics master by using AI. So it's important that the people think that what they're doing for their jobs right now, they are going to be an expert on how to use AI. So how to build the right prompt, the right questions to ask. You have to have, intelligence around these things in order to get what you want out of it. I would say that a famous film director versus a kid, the film director knows like the angles and the shots and storytelling and all of that. So again, it's just a tool. It's not. I can't sit down and say create the next awesome commercial for me while I go cook dinner and take a nap. Like it's
yeah.
not going to happen. It's not going
Well,
to happen. You have to have experts, and anyone who's freaked out about AI or they don't want to touch it, I would just start talking to it about your job and what you do and how can it make it easier. So you just get familiar um, with writing prompts
yeah.
and
Well, I
using it.
mean, speaking of analytics, I mean, coming from the account side, I do enjoy the fact, and you're right. I mean, I could take a look at a lot of different ways, which I like with the analytics side, not only from, seeing what we're posting on the social media side, which is, we've had those analytics for a long time, but now being able to layer it with other things, like what's trending, what are we seeing from competitors, what are we seeing, from historical data, and we're able to kind of compress a lot of that insight and work with AI to kind of in knowing what I want to learn from it. I think that's, being curious about that. Like, I wonder if there's been like a thread that's been going on for like the last year of what's going to perform best here, or what's trending, and how their industry vertical can kind of adapt a little bit more towards that. I think those kind of insights have been really helpful. And even on the paid side of things, I mean, that's talking organic, but on the paid side of things, taking a look at what's performing best there. And I know like that kind of goes and whittles down to the little details of like words and visuals, and like like what are those kind of things, or is it a different audience? Did we expand, or did we kind of try something a little bit different? I think those are some helpful insights that we've been seeing. And I feel like it gives us the ability to be a big agency thought wise, in being able to have the resources in front of us, because we know kind of what we're curious and what we're wanting to learn about, and we're able to now kind of share those deeper insights, which I think is fantastic, and it kind of levels the playing field, across the board. So that big agency, gosh, I mean, when you and I worked in some of the larger agencies, I mean, how large were those analytic teams? I mean, they were like
Yeah,
20
10,
people
15
deep. I
people,
mean,
20 people. Yeah,
it was pretty extensive. So I feel like
yeah.
now we're able to kind of be a little more robust in what we're recommending, and being able to really give some thoughtful analysis and strategy moving forward. So,
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's kind of a trend that, a lot of companies don't want huge teams, and it has nothing to do with AI at all. It's more just, you know,
Well, the
smaller
budgets aren't there
agencies.
anymore, and they haven't been
Yeah,
there,
right, right,
even
right,
before AI.
right.
So yeah,
Right, but I think a lot of smaller companies can, brag about being, strong but nimble. Like, so they can get a lot of things done that a large agency can. I mean, obviously, there's appropriate jobs for those larger agencies and client management and things like that. But it does give us, the little guy, a shot at being able to take on larger projects
yeah,
and have better resources. And I feel like it's important for us to always educate the client on things like AI. It Once you are become an expert, they trust you a lot more. You're able to say no, don't do that,
yeah,
and they trust you for being able to say that, which is really important
right.
because that's our job, is to not just fill holes. We're supposed to come in and be an expert and tell them yes or no when something comes up.
Perfect. Well, I think we should maybe wrap on that note. I mean, and also kind of throw it out there that if somebody's thinking about something, we'd love to pressure test an idea and see, what we could do on the AI side because we have been A/B testing and checking the nuances out of these platforms. So if anybody has anything that they'd love to throw our way to pressure test, we'd love to take a look. So
Yeah, my motto is if you want something done, give it to someone who's busy. So I have AI open all day long. I'm working in it. So if you have a new product or if you have an idea that you want brought to life really quick, I have tons of no time to do that for you.
tons of no time. Love it. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye.